All right, you guys, we are back. This is actually our third attempt, and going live on Facebook is an issue for us, apparently. So,
Yes.
due to technical difficulties, we will be uploading this right after we finish here. It is 11:51. So, let's jump right back into things here, Alex.
Yes. So we
Just
were talking
maybe.
about dropping the toxic relationships in our lives and how this can sometimes be hard for people because you're so used to the relationship, you're used to having them around, but you know that they're not good for you. You know that every single time you're with them or around them or talking to them, you leave feeling like less of a person. And so this has been huge for me, where I recently had just finally had enough. I had had enough and I audited the crap out of my life. And it started with friends and family. I realized that I needed to just hit the pavement hard and, really get rid of those people. And I was scared to do it at first. And but then after I started doing it, it was like, oh, this feels great. Like I feel lighter,
That's
I feel
right.
happier. And now it's like so easy. Like people come in and they're negative and I'm like, see you later.
Yeah, got no time for that. That's for sure. And
Hmm.
like you said, even with it isn't just friends, it's people, even family members. I've said this before, just because someone is a part of your family doesn't mean that they automatically are a given in your life. You need to
Hmm.
protect your energy and protect what surrounds you, because your environment is everything. Your environment becomes a large part of, or feeds your mental state, is what I'm trying to say. They are
Totally.
connected, and you can't have toxic people, negative people, people that bring you down around you, and think that you can just overcome that and go on your merry way. You can't.
Hmm.
And it's like a scientifically like proven thing, you guys. Um, and I was talking about setting boundaries with people. So yes, people that don't aren't serving you and aren't moving you forward to where you want to go. Yes, cut them out. But there's also relationships that need to be worked on and that you need to pour into. And setting boundaries is of huge importance.
Hmm.
Without boundaries, like, people don't read minds. You teach people how to treat you, and that's something
Totally.
that I've really held on to in my personal life and in my business life.
Hmm.
Everything is Not everyone is going to get along, not everyone is going to mesh with you and build you up, and that's okay. um, but don't allow them into your space. So
Hmm.
something I've been working on is really setting boundaries within my relationship with my husband, my kids, my stepkids. Um, and it's been huge for me, because number one, they know what to expect from me. They know what I'm bringing to the table, and I'm holding myself to that. And in return, I'm respecting myself in setting boundaries with them. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just really important to set those. Otherwise, no one knows what to expect and no one knows what's over the line. It can breed resentment without boundaries. How does someone know it's not okay with you unless you tell them?
Well, definitely right. And not only that, you got to think, sometimes it's not intentional. People don't,
Right.
a lot of the time, especially when it's your spouse or your kids, it's not like it's an intentional thing where, it's just, they're just, in the moment and, in their own world and they don't realize, hey, this, I shouldn't be doing this, or I've crossed a line here. And so unless we, voice up how we're feeling, or voice how some things affected us, and maybe our spouse said something to us, or wasn't listening to us, or whatever it may be. If we don't say anything, then we're just allowing that to happen. We're just allowing it, right?
And they'll
So you
continue to
really,
do it.
totally. So like for me, I really have just gotten like, and I've told my spouse this, communication is key. And so he knows that if I'm upset about something, I'm not just going to sit there and do the subtle hints that I'm upset. I'm going to say, hey, that upset me. Hey, that pissed me off. Don't do it again. And since having that shift in our conversation, things have been so different for us. Now it's no longer, we're not guessing on how each other is feeling. We know exactly if we're doing something right or if we're doing something wrong. You know, we communicate, and it's a respectful thing. It's not like, you know, we're always just mad at each other. It's like, hey, you know, this is what I need right now.
And then it's out and
Mm-hmm.
you can move on from it. It's not festering and you can feel like you've been heard. And I had said this this morning that why I'm a people pleaser. That's always been part of who I am. And I honestly, I don't know why I'm that way, but I'm pretty sure it's something from a long while back. Like I just wanted people to like me, and I like to genuinely see people happy. And you would think that's like a wonderful quality. It's also like super detrimental to my life.
Mm-hmm.
I need to live for me, and I really, really started doing that in the past year. And your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship in your life. Your happiness should come above and beyond anyone in your life. Even my kids, me being happy, healthy, and taking care of myself makes me a better mother. And I know that a lot of mothers say like your kids come first, and absolutely don't get me wrong, but your number one relationship is yourself. And yes,
Yes.
there's sacrifice and everything like that, but if you're not taking care of you, and we've all heard this before, if you're not filling up your cup first, you have nothing to give to anybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's really huge for me, that have enough self self-worth and self-respect to teach people how to treat you.
Yeah,
make it
definitely.
make it happen, and if it's not serving you, cut it out. And if you feel guilt about it after, work through why you feel that way. And I think if you work through it, you'd realize it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny because I just went through a situation like this where, you know, I just realized that there was this relationship that I thought was, you know, going to be positive, and it ended up not being positive. And instead of holding on to it and dwelling on it, and like, I mean, sure, I had definitely a few days of being like, you know, upset about it, but I I started just switching it up and asking myself, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? What was
Right.
this relationship supposed to teach me? And so instead of allowing it to, because even we can cut people out and we still allow their negative behavior or their negative relationship
It's
to
still
affect us
effective.
if we keep thinking about it and if we don't deal with it at the root. So I really just started asking myself, like, you know, what the hell am I supposed to learn right now? And what I realized is that, you know, for me, I react from my emotions all the time. So if something makes me upset, I usually am like on the keyboard or texting on my phone or whatever to respond to the person, to defend myself. And for the first time ever, I hadn't done that. And I realized that there is some mighty power in standing in your power silently.
Right.
And that's what I needed to figure out. But until I
Sometimes
figured that
silence speaks
out,
louder.
it
It
totally does. Yeah, and until I figured that out, like as soon as I had that epiphany, all of a sudden I let it go and it was fine. And I didn't hold any resentment towards them because really they gave me something. I learned something from them. And I would definitely audited them out of my life. Like I deleted them out of everything in my life. But with that being said, I do thank them for that lesson that I learned, because without that, I wouldn't have had that realization.
Mhm. Mhm. Totally. Exactly. Um, I know for me personally, like I have cut people out of my life. And even if at the time it was an emotional decision, I stood by that decision. And as time passed, um, and I worked on myself more and grew myself more, those relationships came back around, and we reconnected and we rebuilt. So if
Mm-hmm.
it is someone that is truly valuable and truly deserves to be in your life, they will come back around, because
Definitely.
relationships are reciprocal. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm pretty sure people have cut me out, that's for sure. But I'm working on myself, and I am ex- perfectly fine with who I am, and the people that want to be a part of my life and my journey, you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and sometimes you have to realize too, like just going off what you were saying there, that sometimes you're the toxic person, you know,
And I
and
was, and I
yeah.
so was. I was
Hmm.
like negative, bitchy Nancy, where every time I got together with people, I would unload my shit.
Hmm.
Even if there wasn't that much shit going on, oh, I would find something to bitch about.
Something, yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's not healthy, and it's not actually who I am.
Well, and like it's funny because it all ties in together. Like when you can realize that sometimes you were the toxic person, I look back on the relationships that I thought I was right, or I thought that it was them. And I look back now and I'm like, no, it was me. And since I've changed and since I realized, and taken ownership of that, my negative mindset and my negative behavior and the fact that I really treated my friends and family like crap, all of a sudden I have relationships that I thought would never come back into my life now back in my life, and they're flourishing tenfold. So, it goes both ways. Audit your life, but also take ownership and know that sometimes it's you.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And taking care of yourself every day. Like I said, I'm back from Jamaica now. Don't know if you can see my tan here. Um,
Looking good.
and I'm pretty tired today. But I have hit the ground running since I've been back. This is the first vacation I've come back from where I feel better than when I left. I don't come back feeling like I've gained 1,000 pounds and I'm still hungover. Don't get me wrong, we ate well and we had our fair share of alcohol, but I came back with a clear head. And this Monday, like, I've hit the ground running. I am taking care of myself. I've done everything that I wanted to do this morning, and taking care of yourself is number one. And this is going to sound weird, but spend time with yourself.
Hmm.
Sometimes everything in our life is so connected, and like we're always on the go. And I know, like, I am for sure. But spending time with yourself, because some things will come to the surface and you'll know what you need to work on. Um,
Hmm.
and also, sorry, now I'm all over the place. Alex, what you said about realizing when you're the wrong person. It is so important to not just realize that yourself, but to speak to that person and
Yes.
vocalize, even if it was 2 years ago. If it is
Hmm.
something that that person, you want them in your life, and you now realize you were wrong, freaking say it, you guys. And
Hmm.
if you, like, if you're too much, I guess, of like a coward to say it, or unsure, like, you won't grow and move forward in any different way. And
Hmm.
my husband would say I'm never wrong, but I'm wrong. And I have been making a point of saying it. Like, when I know I'm wrong and I'm like, yeah, bitched at you about that, and now I'm eating my words, I make a true point of telling him that and
Yeah.
apologizing.
Yeah.
And that has been huge in our relationship as well. Even though, again, it's not that frequent because I'm pretty right all the time.
Oh, I can totally relate. Me and Brent's even like, he's really enjoying this new like personal development Alex because, before it was like, I know I'm right. Even when I know I'm right, instead of being like pushy about it, I'm like, I try and go about it in a different way and have just a normal
Great.
conversation with him versus me being like up on my high horse kind of thing, right? But
Mhm.
it is kind of crazy to me how relationships can completely transform when, you realize that you're just a human being too, and
Mhm.
that you're gonna make mistakes, and that you're gonna screw things up, and that sometimes you are the toxic person, and like you said, to go and voice that to that person. Not only is it, I look at it more or less like it's not really for them, it's for
It's for
me.
you. Yeah.
Like I'll never know if I don't try to go and mend that relationship. I'll never know if I could have done something more. And I'm at a point in my life right now where I don't want to just leave it like that. I really want to
And if
Um,
it's still on your heart, it's on your heart for a reason.
well, exactly. And to be in tune with yourself and listen to that side of you,
Mm-hmm.
that's so important. With that being said, though, you know, if you go and you try and mend the relationship and they come back with you or come back at it with some more negativity, okay, know that you did the best that you could and move on.
But then you can walk away with it not weighing on any part of you, even if it's just in the
Mhm.
back of your mind, right?
Exactly.
And just shifting this is even with your kids. Every relationship needs boundaries, and I know a lot of parents struggle with setting and sticking to boundaries with their kids, but that is what helps relationships thrive. If you're just always correcting your kids' behavior after they've done something, and telling them, no, you shouldn't have done that, but they didn't know, like you need to
Hmm.
set boundaries that kids can follow. And I'm proud of myself as a parent that I do that in in my life with all of my kids. It's freaking hard. It is really hard. Um, I have kids that are 15, 13, 5, and 3, and the boundaries that they need, honestly, it doesn't really change. They always need to know what to expect. I need
Hmm.
to teach them how to treat me as their mom and stepmom, and the rules to follow. And
Hmm.
we talked about apologizing or acknowledging when you're wrong, and something that I hope my mom isn't going to watch this. But I remember growing up, and that even when my mom was wrong, she never would come and say to me, you know what, I apologize, whatever the situation is. And I've
Hmm.
really taken that to heart with my kids, even my toddler, that if I was wrong about something or I yelled and I make sure that I am going to them, even my 3 and 5 year old, and saying, I apologize. I should not have done that. I'm sorry. And
Hmm.
I feel like that really does go a long way no matter what the relationship is.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. And, I think when it comes to your kids too, when you're teaching them how to treat you and, about boundaries with yourself, you're also teaching them how to treat other people.
Right.
Like I look at my boys now and how they treat me, I know is how they're going to go and treat other women. And so I'm very aware of the things that they're saying to me, or if they're communicating with me properly, or, like I want them to develop good relationship skills. And you can't do that if you're not working on your relationship with them and teaching them
Right.
how to go about it. So I think that's super important. And just to kind of bring it around, like another thing to be auditing too is mindset. Like
Mhm.
this is an area, I started off with like auditing people out of my life, and then I started watching my communication with my friends and family that were still a part of my life. And then I really dived into dropping mindsets that I had, or different like thought processes that I had. So even around parenting, like just there's so many things that were holding me back from being the best parent that I could. And until I dropped those crappy mindsets, I wasn't able to really flourish in my parenting, right?
And until you I for those of you that know me, like I in theory would always like to read books, and then I'd start it and be like, I don't need that. Or anything self-development, I'm like, what do I need to develop? I'm perfectly fine. I'm pretty awesome. Uh, but all of the things that we've been sharing, it isn't that all of a sudden all this shit just went into my mind and I'm just living this happy life. I am working on myself every day. I am educating myself in different ideas and different ways of approaching things in my life, because not no one has it all figured out. I don't care who you are. And if you
Mm-hmm.
aren't pouring into yourself and looking at better, more efficient, and more healthy ways of living your life, you are just going to be a product of exactly where you came from.
Yes.
And that's not an excuse. I could say,
No.
like, my mom was this way, and heck, I'm like identical to my mom, and she's amazing, and I love her. But she would tell you there's certain things she doesn't want to pass down to me, and she
Yeah.
did. And I'm working my ass
Mm-hmm.
off to change what is ingrained into me from when I was
Mm-hmm.
a child. Um, it's like fact that your whole belief system and the way that you act and live and engage with people, it's been set in, what is it, Alex, 8 years old?
8-year-old, from the ages of 1 to 8 is when your main belief systems, your core belief systems are formed. And this is something that's been like huge for me to realize. I now realize where a lot of those belief systems came from, where my mindset comes from, where certain ways that I do things, where I feel like I'm a stick in the mud, like I don't want to change. And I always wondered why. And I realized it was from, watching my parents, whether it be around finances or their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And now I no longer can use it as an excuse because I know the reason. I know how to fix it now.
Right.
When you
And
bring awareness,
it
it is
like,
hard work.
oh, I read this book this one time and now I'm all enlightened and I'm just living my best life. No, that's a load of shit. You have to really be open to it. And
Mhm.
I am not the person, well, maybe I am a bit now, but I'm so much more open-minded. And honestly, I've never grown and changed as much as I have in this past year. And that's been finally because I've been open to doing things different, not being like, well, this is how it is. I guess that's just how that relationship
Yeah.
so is. So they're family, so I guess I have to deal with it. No, you get to choose the life that you live, and a product of where you came from or saying that's just how things are, that's an excuse, and you are the only person that has control to change it.
Well,
And
exactly. And once you can stand it and to like take back that power, over the years, we just get so accustomed to giving our power away. We give it to, so and so, and we give it to another so and
and
so.
your
And
happiness is connected to
yes,
them, not yourself.
totally. Well, you're putting it in someone else's hands. When did it become okay for us to put our lives and our happiness in someone else's hands?
Mm-hmm.
And so once I realized, like, I'm done with that, I'm done with it. And you have to go from like having that awareness of why you have held on to those relationships or bad habits or mindsets, and then you have to dive into some personal development, whether it be an audiobook or hanging out with people who are living the kind of life and the lifestyle that you want to live, hanging out and getting information off of them. But then you have to do the hard work and actually implement it, which is where most people fail. They don't, they'll go and they'll get the audiobooks and they'll have a stack of personal development books, and they could even be hanging out with the right kind of people. But if you're not actually implementing it into your life, then you're just wasting your time and your money, quite frankly.
Yeah, totally. And after this, we'll post in the comments a couple of books that Alex and I recommend that you guys read. And of course, every person is different, but invest in yourselves, invest in the relationships in your life, and respect yourself enough to cut the shit out. Because
Yes.
it's very healthy.
It is. You will start shining in a whole different light when you do this.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yeah,
we're calling time.
I think so.
I hope you guys got some value out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And post comments below, and we will engage with you guys. And until next week, and little tidbit, we will have a very special guest in February, and we're speaking with her tonight to kind of nail things down. She is a published author. You can get her books in like chapters and stuff like that. Chapters, Indigo, Amazon, and she's pretty freaking cool. So
to say we're excited is an understatement. I am thrilled.
yeah, and she's actually going to the Oscars to
Oh my
like
goodness, I did not know that.
coach people and talk to them before. So we're not talking like some little, oh, I wrote a little book and published it myself.
No,
Like
we have like a celebrity coming on, guys. Like that's
and we're
exciting.
kind of a big deal. So until next time, until next week, thanks for watching. Okay, bye.
Thank you. See ya.